Have you ever wondered what it would be like to ride with the wind across an endless green sea of grass? To live under a sky so vast it feels like the roof of the world. This is the spirit of Mongolia, a land of ancient nomadic traditions and the birthplace of the largest contiguous land empire in human history. For thousands of years, nomadic tribes roamed these steppes, their lives dictated by the seasons and the needs of their herds. They were masters of horsemanship, skilled archers, and fiercely independent people, living in harmony with the harsh, beautiful landscape. Their homes, the circular yurt soldiers, could be packed up and moved in a matter of hours, a perfect symbol of their mobile lifestyle. The sky god Tengri watched over them, and the spirit of the wolf guided their destiny. This was the world that would give rise to a man who would change its course forever. In the late 12th century, the Mongolian plateau was a fractured and chaotic place. Dozens of tribes and clans were locked in a constant cycle of raids, alliances, and betrayals. It was into this brutal world that a boy named Temujin was born. His early life was one of incredible hardship. His father was poisoned, his family was abandoned by their clan, and he spent his youth as a fugitive, hunted and impoverished. But these trials forged in him an unbreakable will and a brilliant strategic mind. Through sheer determination, charisma, and a genius for warfare and diplomacy, Temujin began to unite the scattered Mongol tribes. He didn't just conquer them, he brought them together under common law and a shared identity. He rewarded loyalty above noble birth and created a disciplined, merit-based military machine unlike anything the world had ever seen. By 1206, Temujin had successfully unified all the tribes of the Mongolian steppe. At a grand assembly, a Kurultai, he was proclaimed the universal ruler, the Genghis Khan. This wasn't just a new title, it was the birth of a new nation and a new era. Genghis Khan didn't just want to rule the steppe, he envisioned a world united under the eternal blue sky. He believed he had a divine mandate to conquer the world, and he set about doing just that. His first major campaigns were against the powerful neighboring empires, the Western Jia, the Jin dynasty in northern China, and the Khwarezmian Empire in Central Asia. The Mongol army was a force of nature. Their tactics were revolutionary. They were masters of the feigned retreat, encirclement, and psychological warfare. Their horse archers could rain down arrows with terrifying precision while riding at full gallop. They were fast, disciplined, and utterly ruthless. The Mongol conquests were swift and often brutal. Cities that resisted were often razed to the ground, their populations put to the sword. This reputation for terror was a weapon in itself, often causing other cities to surrender without a fight. But to paint the Mongols as mere destroyers is to miss half the story. Genghis Khan was also a brilliant administrator. He established the Yasa, a secret written code of law that governed everything from property rights to military discipline. He created a reliable postal system, the Yam, which allowed for rapid communication across his vast and growing empire. He promoted trade and protected merchants, creating what would later be known as the Pax Mongolica, or the Mongol Peace. Under his rule, the Silk Road, which had been dangerous and fragmented, was revitalized. For the first time in centuries, goods, ideas, and cultures could travel safely from China all the way to Europe. When Genghis Khan died in 1227, his empire stretched from the Pacific Ocean to the Caspian Sea. But this was only the beginning. His sons and grandsons would continue the expansion with unstoppable momentum. His son Ogedai Khan was elected the new Great Khan and established the Mongol capital at Karakorum. Under his command, the Mongol armies pushed further west. They conquered the Rus principalities, laying waste to cities like Kiev and Moscow, and then surged into Europe itself. In 1241, a Mongol army under Bacha Khan and the brilliant General Subutai crushed a combined force of Polish and German knights at the Battle of Legnica. Another army devastated the Kingdom of Hungary. Europe was gripped by terror, believing the Mongols to be a divine punishment, the horsemen of the apocalypse. The continent seemed on the brink of total conquest. But then news arrived from the heart of the empire: Genghis Khan was dead. According to Mongol tradition, all princes of the bloodline had to return to the capital to elect a successor. The Mongol armies turned back, and Europe was by a twist of fate spared. The Mongol Empire didn't stop there. In the east, Genghis Khan's grandson Kublai Khan completed the conquest of China. After decades of war, he finally defeated the southern Song dynasty in 1279. Instead of just ruling from the steppe, Kublai embraced Chinese culture. He established a new dynasty, the Yuan dynasty, and moved his capital to what is now Beijing. He was a patron of the arts and sciences, and his court was famously visited by the Venetian merchant Marco Polo, whose writings would introduce the wonders of the East to a fascinated Europe. Meanwhile, another of Genghis's grandsons, Hulagu Khan, led a campaign into the Middle East. In 1258, he sacked Baghdad, the heart of the Islamic world, ending the Abbasid Caliphate. His Ilkhanate, based in Persia, became another major center of the Mongol world. At its peak, the Mongol Empire was a global power, stretching from Poland to Korea, from Siberia to Vietnam. It was the largest empire the world had ever known, home to over 100 million people, a quarter of the world's population at the time. But an empire this vast, built so quickly, was almost impossible to hold together. Rivalries between Genghis Khan's descendants began to fester. The single, unified empire slowly fractured into four separate successor states: the Yuan dynasty in China, the Golden Horde in Russia and Eastern Europe, the Chagatai Khanate in Central Asia, and the Ilkhanate in Persia. While they were still powerful entities in their own right, the central authority of the Great Khan weakened. The Pax Mongolica, that great era of peace and trade, began to unravel. Each Khanate started to adopt the local cultures and religions. The Ilkhanate in Persia converted to Islam, as did the Golden Horde. The Yuan dynasty in China became increasingly Sinicized. The Mongol identity that Genghis Khan had forged began to dilute. In the 14th century, a series of rebellions, plagues like the Black Death which traveled along the Mongol trade routes, and internal conflicts led to the collapse of these khanates. In 1368, the Yuan dynasty was overthrown by a native Chinese rebellion, which established the Ming dynasty. The other khanates slowly disintegrated over the next century. The age of Mongol world dominance was over. The legacy of the Mongol Empire is complex and often controversial. They were responsible for immense destruction and the deaths of millions. But they also connected the East and the West like never before. They facilitated a massive exchange of technology, culture, and ideas. Gunpowder, the compass, and printing from China made their way to Europe, helping to spark the Renaissance. Persian art and science influenced China. Their administrative systems and military strategies were studied and copied for centuries. They redrew the map of the world, and many modern nations, including Russia and China, took their current shapes as a result of the Mongol conquests. They showed that a small, nomadic people from the remote steppes of Asia could, through unity, discipline, and visionary leadership, conquer the world. Today in Mongolia, Genghis Khan is not seen as a conqueror, but as the founding father of the nation, the man who gave his people a name and a place in history. The spirit of the great empire still echoes across the endless grasslands, a testament to one of the most remarkable chapters in the human story. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more stories from history. See you next time.